Alrighty. Well, thank you for coming to City Ballet Summer Intensive again for I'm not sure how many years.
I think Joanne said this is my 12th year. And I missed last year because I was sick, you know. So I've been wearing these shirts in different colours for 12 years.
Well, welcome back. And
Thank you. Well, I mean, I teach at many, and I think that the program here is one of the best in the country. You know, the students are very good. Stephen and Betsy run a very fine school, and they attract good people, you know. And it's not associated with any of the big companies, so it's a very independent situation, and I think it's more personal and less crowded than most of the other places.
Programs in general.
Well, I just come in and do what I do. The pianist said something to me. She said, you know, what I've noticed about you, David, is that you never like plead to the people. You say what you have to say, and if they like it, they like it, and if they don't, they don't, you know. So I come in and do what I do, and some of them will enjoy it, and some of them will feel a little bit of pressure here and there. That's what life is about. Well, I think, I mean, you're dealing with America is sports oriented, you know, and it's very hard, especially in this area, which is, you know, right by the beach. So you're dealing with a climate situation and also to the economic situation of this time. I think, or you can carry on and do what you do and try and educate the public, which is what Mr. Balanchine did years ago. And also too, I think, important to entertain and educate, not just try and educate. When I was over in London recently with the Royal Ballet, Monica Mason said, you know, that she did a triple bill, which she thought was a wonderful triple bill. And she said, but people didn't come. And I said, well, but they've never been interested in triple bills, like 3 ballets in the evening, you know. They're always interested in like a full length evening. So, and now people are dealing with the board. Monica's dealing with the board over there. And she said, could you imagine Dame Ninette de Valois being told what to do by the board? I said, no, I can't. But, you know, she said, now they're saying, this sold, this didn't sell, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's a different time, you know. But I think to educate and entertain, there was a very famous singer called Joan Sutherland who passed away quite recently. And they spoke with her about the art of singing. And she said, you know, there's no art of singing. We're mere entertainers. That's what we do. Yes, there's the art of singing, but that's what we're here to do, is to entertain, which I thought was a very good point from a great singer. When you go to see a show, when the curtain goes up, you want to see like a set and costumes rather than just a backcloth, and, you know, I think more of a feeling of theatre in a way, you know. And doesn't mean to say you can't do them. Now kids tend to like specialize too much. And when I started, I can remember saying to the director of school, I want to be a ballet dancer. And she said to me, David, you're entering a life in the theatre. I thought, oh, I'm entering a life in the theatre. You know? And she said, one day you'll hear every word I've said. And there was a film years ago called The Red Shoes with Maurice Shearer. And I grew up during the war, and we were starving to death. And I can remember at one point, Moira was sitting in Monte Carlo with a glass of orange juice, and she put some glucose in the orange juice. I'd never seen orange juice in my life before, and I'd never seen glucose before. I thought, if I join a ballet company, I can have orange juice and glucose.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, amazing. It's true, though.
Yeah.
I think it's not a great ballet dance. I think it's a great dancer. It takes, Gelsy always said, you know, it's not necessarily talent, it's survival and power. You know, if you can survive it, and if you have enough power in your body, that's what moves an audience. It's not about the technique necessarily. You know, it's about the power that you have up there on the stage and survival. No, night after night after night after night after night, and injuries. And like when I was with the Royal Ballet, I was off for a year, and when I came back, every role I had was gone. It was somebody else's turn. Mine was over. That was it. Thrown on the heap. So I survived like another couple of years and then left, you know. So you have to go on with your life. Well, I mean, I use a lot of kinesthetic things, over patterns, under patterns, around the spine, levels, all those kind of things I talk about, you know, rather than just move your leg front and move your leg side. And it's all circular, you know. Everything is circular. The world is not flat. It's circular. There's no such thing as a straight line. It's a straightened circle. So if you think in terms of circular patterns, it starts, it never finishes, and it goes into the next step. If you think in terms of lines, it stops at the end of each movement. You know? So I try, like when I try and talk into like a sing-song situation, la da 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 da, not down da da down da da down da da down da da da, that kind of thing. You know, one movement is the beginning of the next. You know, it's not stop and start and stop and start and stop and start. You know, because I tend to keep the class moving as much as I can. They're competition dancers and they do very well, and you see them in another environment and it doesn't necessarily work, you know. But at a certain point, I think it's good for you if that's what you need and you have a good teacher that can coach you. I always used to say, like Catherine Healy, when I worked with Catherine, I said, you know, life is not about winning, it's about giving. And if you give, you win. You know, because the mothers will say, you know, she only got the gold medal. How many gold medals do you want? 3? You know? And when you go through life, you realize if you give, you win. I think Makarova did 1. I think maybe Paloma did a couple of years ago down in Argentina. But I think the important thing is a dancer competes with themselves. It just depends a lot on the way the class is put together, that the person that they're working with. And I said to many of the groups here, we use the same muscles in the same way over and over and over again. So we have to look at the body to see, is the body structurally sound? Is it strong enough to do what it has to do? Do we have the skills to do what we have to do? And that's very individual. I always say, is it pain or discomfort? You know, is it really pain? And if it's pain, then deal with it. If it's discomfort, every time you wake up, every morning you're in discomfort, you know. But if there are too many injuries, then you have to have cooking lessons or something like that, you know, and move on out. Well, I grew up during the war, and my father went away to the war when I was 2.5, 3. And I was born in 37, 39, the war started. And there was a theatre around the corner where I lived in Chelsea called the Chelsea Palace. So my mother and father took me to the Chelsea Palace to see a variety show. And there were 2 houses, 6:15 and 8:45. So Dad said to me, we're going to see the first house. And I thought, well, where's the second one then? We're going to see this house. I couldn't work it out. Anyway, and he said to me, the more you clap, the more times they come on a bow, the more money they get at the end of the week. I thought, oh. So I'm clapping away. And I remember the shape of the theatre, it was red, that preceded, and I was stage struck at the age of 2.5. So we were all evacuated from London. All the children were evacuated from London. And my father got away to the war, and I landed in a little village called Holyport in Berkshire. And there was a very famous American man called Mr. Martineau who had a big house on the village green. And to that village green and to that house, the London branch of the Teachers of Dancing came. Director was Grace Cohn, and Grace Cohn went to the local community and said, I have all these wonderful teachers, maybe we should teach maple dancing in the local schools. So I was in the school, and Elizabeth Davis comes in one day and said, we're going to da-da-da. So I got up and said, Miss Davis, I really want to do this. I want to go on the stage. So she said, if you want to be a help to me, get to the back of the room and shut up. This is my first day here. So after about 3 months, she came to me and said, I think I ought to come and meet your mother. So she came to meet my mother, and my mother said, yes, you've been driving me insane since he was 2. The director of the school, the London school I eventually went to, came down to see me, to look at my physicality, to have good legs, to have good feet, and I was given a scholarship to go to London and travel like hour and a half up to London, do my schooling and then my dancing, and come back every day. That's how I started. And I happened to have a good voice, and so I was able to do lots of recordings. I recorded Abbey Road before Abbey Road was famous with the Beatles, and things for EMI. Then I did lots of television work, lots of movies, and worked all the way through my schooling. Because I had an agent, and because I was on scholarship, the school took 33 1/3% of my money, and the agent took 10% of my money. So out of every dollar, I was getting like 50 cents or 60 cents, which wasn't a lot there. But that helped to pay for my shoes and my tights. And my father wanted me, when he came back from the war, wanted me to keep that money. And my mother said, no, definitely not. He's going to have to pay for everything through his life. He might just as well start now. So I paid for my shoes and my tights, and that's how it all started, you know. And my mother was tough. I mean, she was a stage mother, you know, my David, and it drove my father insane. When I had my school in New York, Dad would come over like every year, and when my mother passed away, he would have moved here, but he had diabetes, and I thought, well, you can't bring someone who's sick to this country with the medical bills. So he would come and watch class, he would say, come over here. So I'd go and see him. He said, David, that person has dirty shoes. You never had dirty shoes. You clean your shoes before every class. I said, Dad, it's a different time, you know. Now, why did you tell that one over there, that big lady, that she needs to lose at least 200 pounds? She would be a great person on the tug of war team. I said, he was great, was very good with me, because I never really, I didn't think of him as a friend, but later on I did. And he would come and watch, and he would say, criticize me tremendously. He would say, you know, all the joy's gone out of your work. And I said, well, I'm trying to teach. Well, it's not working, he would say. Definitely not working. And I would go home sometimes and sit and complain. He said, sit there, just sit there and shut up. You drove us insane to do this. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't, don't. Shut up.
Good advice.
Great man, great man.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, plan A was to go on the stage. Plan B was to be a hairdresser. I had some back problems, and so off I went to be an apprentice hairdresser. And standing like this was worse than the back. So that was the second choice. The third choice, what on earth was I going to do? I was in a show called Little Me, a Bob Fosse show, and the school that I went to called me up and said, David, we have a group of little boys who are nearly as badly behaved as you were when you were here, and would you teach them? I said, well, what do I teach them? Well, it's a tap class. So I started teaching tap, and then one day the ballet teacher was out, and the ballroom teacher was out, and that's how I slowly got into doing it. But it's lovely coming here. I enjoy coming here, and I think Betsy and Stephen do an incredible job, and the company is very good. One of my boys that I've been working with in New York going to join the company now, Nolan, and I recommended him to come here, and they do a wonderful job. They need more support, as most of the arts organizations do, and I'm sure there are a few people lurking around that have a few pennies to spend, and they should spend it here.